Okay, kiddos, we are back with the second part of our notes. We stopped last time at the divergent boundary, and now we're going to talk about the transform boundary. And the transform boundary is when two plates move past each other horizontally, they scrape against each other, and then we experience an earthquake. So that is how those transform boundaries work. The two plates slide right next to each other horizontally, they cause a scraping in between, and then we experience an earthquake. Deformation is definitely a vocab word. It's the process by which rocks change shape when under stress. The example given in the book is the idea of the spaghetti. Think about if you're breaking the spaghetti noodles, you can bend them and bend them and bend them to such a point, eventually they're going to break in half. That is deformation. The same thing happens with rocks. Plate movements put stress on rocks. Low temperature rocks that are under low temperature causes the rock to break. High temperature cause rocks to bend. So the higher the temperature you have, the more likely the rock will bend. The lower the temperature you have, the more likely the rock will break. Now, folds are another component we're going to be talking about. Folding is a vocab word, which means it occurs when rock layers bend under stress. So under those higher temperatures, they're going to start to fold. When those rock layers fold under stress, it is called, or when they bend under stress, it is called folding. There are two types of folding. There are synclines and anticlines. Anticlines is the one that looks like the bowl. Synclines is the one that looks, I got that backwards. Anticlines is the arch, and synclines is the bowl shape. All right, there are faults as well. A fault is a crack that forms when large blocks of rocks move past each other. There are three types of faults. This is what you guys went ahead and demonstrated with the Play-Doh. There's strike-slip faults, there's normal faults, and then there's a reverse fault. Keep in mind the strike-slip faults are the ones that move horizontally right next to each other. The normal faults, and I did have a typo there, my apologies, it should be faults, not facts. The normal faults are the ones where the hanging wall moves down in relation to the footwall, and the reverse fault is when the hanging wall moves up in relation to the footwall. Volcanoes. Now, there are different types of volcanoes, not just the huge mountains that we always think of. They can be tall mountains, or they can be small cracks in the rock, or small cracks in the ground, rather. They can be active or dormant. There's a lot of different types of volcanoes, not just the way we think about it. A volcano is any place where gas, ash, or melted rock come out of the ground, and they can be both active or dormant. There are three main types of volcanoes. There are shield volcanoes, cinder cones, and then composite volcanoes. You'll get to see a few images of those and know the difference between those eventually. Where do volcanoes form? They form at divergent boundaries, at convergent boundaries, or at hotspots. Now, hotspots are locations where a column of extremely hot mantle rock rises through the asthenosphere. So volcanoes can form at any of those places. Earthquakes are ground movements that occur when blocks of rock and earth move suddenly and release energy. They release that energy that causes the ground to move, and we experience a shaking. The energy in an earthquake is released as seismic waves. We go ahead and track these seismic waves using a seismograph. We will be building one later in a STEM project, which is kind of cool. And earthquake waves are tracked at the focus of the earthquake. The focus is a place within Earth along a fault at which the first motion of an earthquake occurs. So it's the place in Earth where the earthquake first occurs. The epicenter is directly above the focus on Earth's surface. So those are just kind of good things to know about the diagram of an earthquake. Earthquakes occur at boundaries. Things that get affected due to an earthquake, they danger people, they danger structures. Sometimes they can take whole buildings down, sometimes they damage buildings, and they can also create tsunamis. So a lot of after effects from earthquakes. Elastic rebound is the what causes earthquake answer. Deformation, like we talked about with the spaghetti noodle, causes those rocks to bend or to change in shape. Elastic rebound is the return of rock to its original shape after elastic deformation. So deformation causes the rocks to bend. Elastic rebounds when they return to their natural shape. That causes an earthquake. Seismic waves, we talked about this. Seismic waves are vibrations that cause different types of ground motion. We measure these in an earthquake. There are two types of seismic waves. There's body waves and there's surface waves. We use a seismograph to trace the earthquake motion and to measure these waves. Measuring earthquakes, there's two ways we measure an earthquake. It's by their magnitude, which is the measure of an energy released by an earthquake. They use the Richter scale or the momentum magnitude scale to measure an earthquake's magnitude. And finally, intensity is the effect of the earthquake and how the earthquake is felt by the people. That's another way we choose to measure.